USA.
Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting of June 17th, 2019 City Council to order. Ask everyone to please silence their phones. We're going to start with the invocation. We have Bishop Slater here for that, and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have Troop 10 to come up and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance once Bishop Slater's finished. If you would, please stand. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Council. Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, that we're able to be here, and even the City Council and the Mayor doing our business on the behalf of the people. Father, we ask you to bless them and cover their minds, God. Let their motives be pure. Touch this city, Lord. Bring the people back to it, that we can go on and be gracious in all that we do and all our business. Father, we ask you, and I take a moment to decree and declare, peace abide in this city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Slater. All right, Troop 10, I think for Providence United Methodist Church, is that right?
Yes.
Come on up. Come on right across the front right here, be great. Spread out right through here. How are y'all tonight? Everybody doing good? All right. Nice size troop. Good.
No uniforms.
All right, so y'all gonna help us lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sure you know how to do that, but your flag's behind you, so you're gonna have to turn around and look in this corner, okay? All right, you ready?
Do a scout.
Take off whenever you're ready.
I
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, we appreciate y'all coming tonight, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
We have roll call?
Mayor Allen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robles.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Foster.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Acott.
Here. We're all here. Do we have the approval of the minutes of the work session and regular meeting of May 6, 2019 for adoption?
Move to adopt.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. Motion carries to approve the minutes. We have two presentations tonight. The first one is a resolution expressing appreciation for service rendered by Joseph Johnson. I saw Mr. Johnson out there, and I'm going to read this, Mr. Johnson, then you can come up, and Chief, I'm sure you might want to come up with me. So let's do this. And Resolution 2019-51. Joseph Johnson retires on July 1, 2019 as a battalion chief with the Goldsboro Fire Department, City of Goldsboro, with more than 29 years of service. He began his career November 21, 1990 as firefighter with the Goldsboro Fire Department. On August 11, 1999, he was promoted to fire engineer with the Goldsboro Fire Department. July 30, 2008, Joseph was promoted to fire captain with the Goldsboro Fire Department. On December 6, 2017, Joseph was promoted to fire marshal with the Goldsboro Fire Department. On January 2, 2019, Joseph's position was changed to battalion chief with the Goldsboro Fire Department, where he has served until his retirement. Whereas Joseph has proven himself to be a dedicated and efficient public servant who has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow workers and the citizens of the City of Goldsboro, the Mayor, the City Council of the City of Goldsboro desires on behalf of ourselves, the city employees, and the citizens of the City of Goldsboro of expressing to Joe their deep appreciation and gratitude for the service rendered by him to the city over these years. Therefore, be resolved by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, that number one, we express our deep appreciation and gratitude for the dedicated service rendered during Joseph's tenure with the City of Goldsboro and offer him our very best wishes for success, happiness, prosperity, and good health in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be incorporated into the official minutes of the City of Goldsboro and shall be in full force and effect from and after this, the 17th day of June, 2019. I offer this resolution for adoption.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. The resolution passes. All right, Mr. Joe, come on up. Chief. Well, first off, we'll give you the floor. With 29 years is a long time. You deserve to be able to say something, to be sure. Anything you want to say?
It's just been a pleasure working with the city.
Well, we're going to miss you. And I'm sure you can come back consulting some too, right? And Chief, do you have anything you'd like to say to Joe before we?
Certainly, I wouldn't allow an employee, it's difficult in this day and age to have someone that can stick with something for any period of time. But for just about 3 decades, we appreciate Chief Johnson, because he's not only a fire officer, he's a role model. He's an elder in his church. He's a great father, husband, son. And, you know, he has his master's divinity, and he said he's going to be spending more time so he can spread the good word. So I too, and all your families within the fire department, we wish you Godspeed and that you continue to prosper in your life. So thank you very much for your service to the community.
All right, okay.
Let's get a picture. You got a lot of you are. You know you got small.
The white flag. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Get it back in your box. Here you go, buddy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we have one more retirement, and this is Resolution 2019-52. Resolution expressing appreciation for service rendered by Jody Dean as an employee of the City of Goldsboro for more than 12 years. Whereas Jody retires on July 1, 2019 as the golf director with the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Goldsboro with more 12 years of service. Jody began his career as a temporary employee on January 20, 2005 as a clubhouse assistant at the golf course within the Parks and Recreation Department. On January 3, 2007, Jody was hired as a part-time clubhouse assistant at the golf course with the Parks and Recreation Department. On December 12, 2012, Jody was hired as a full-time clubhouse assistant at the golf course, Parks and Recreation Department. On July 1, 2015, Jody was promoted to golf director at the golf course with the Parks and Recreation Department, where he has served until his retirement. Jody has proven himself to be a dedicated, efficient public servant who has gained the admiration and respect of his fellow workers and the citizens of the City of Goldsboro. Whereas the mayor and the city council of the City of Goldsboro desires, on behalf of themselves, the city employees, and the citizens of the City of Goldsboro, expressing to Jody their deep appreciation and gratitude for the service rendered by him to the city over these years. Therefore, it be resolved by the mayor and the city council of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, number one, we express our deep appreciation and gratitude for the dedicated service rendered during Jody's tenure with the City of Goldsboro, and we offer him our very best wishes for success, happiness, prosperity, and good health in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be incorporated into the official minutes of the City of Goldsboro, and shall be in full force and effect from and after this, the 17th day of June. Offer this resolution for adoption.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Resolution passes. Jody, I saw you out here all dressed up. Not used to seeing you all dressed up like that. Jody usually wears a golf shirt.
I like those pants.
This is my work day out here with the city.
I like those pants, Jody.
Thank you.
Well, first off, Jody, you have anything you'd like to say? Because I know you have words usually.
Yeah, well, I sure do, Mayor, and thank you so much for letting me say. I pretty much started golf when I was 13 years old at Goldsboro Municipal Golf Course. So I've been playing golf for, as my preacher would say, 50 plus none of your business years. And I have basically come a full circle back to Goldsboro Municipal Golf Course. My replacement, I know the city is in good hands, and I really appreciate them giving me the opportunity to serve the citizens of Goldsboro. And whoever they pick, I know, may be much smarter than me, much better educated than me, but they'll never love the people and the course as much as I do. So,
All right, well said. Well, you know you got a smile. Betsy, you want one? Mr. Daniel?
Jody, not very many of us get to do our retirement when we are still working, you know.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all very much for giving me the opportunity.
There you are, sir. All right, that does it for our presentations. We're going to move to public hearings, and our first one is Z1119 Joyful Play Child Care and Preschool. Jennifer?
Item D is Z1119 Joyful Play Child Care and Preschool. The subject property is located on the east side of Barrow Court between East Ash Street and Carroll Street. The applicant is requesting a zoning change from a portion of the property from R16 residential to general business conditional district in conjunction with site plan approval to allow the operation of a child daycare. The property is zoned residential and currently occupied by a single-family dwelling. As previously stated, the applicant is proposing to rezone a portion of the property in order to operate a child daycare. Site and landscape plans have been submitted for separate approval. Surrounding zones: to the north, you have general business; to the south, office and institutional 1; to the east, residential R16 and neighborhood business; and to the west, R16. Here's an aerial photography of the site. The submitted site plan indicates roughly about a 5,000 square foot building of modular construction and meeting the requirements of the North Carolina State Building Code. Hours of operation are Monday through Sunday, 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. There'll be roughly 8 staff on hand. And the children, with regards to occupying the space, is the applicant is seeking state license for 115 children. The site will be served by 2 24-foot wide driveway cuts off Barrow Court and Carroll Street. Since Barrow Court is an unimproved city street, the applicant is proposing to pave approximately 100 linear feet or 2,200 square feet in order to provide approved access to the site. Street improvements must meet city engineering standards. A paved and striped parking lot is shown directly east of the daycare. Child daycares require 1 parking space per 300 square feet of gross floor area, plus an unloading and loading area capable of stacking 4 vehicles. A total of 14 parking spaces have been provided to include 1 handicap space. In addition, 4 spaces for loading and unloading are shown at the front entrance of the proposed daycare. The applicant is requesting a modification of the required parking from 22 to 18 spaces. The applicant states that the daycare's client base has varied working hours, utilizing daytime and nighttime child care services, and that the required amount of parking spaces is more than sufficient for the proposed use. Exterior construction materials for the building consist of hardy plank siding, vinyl windows, and roofing comprised of rubber membrane with a flat roof pitch. State requirements require that there is outdoor play area for child daycares. The submitted site plan shows an outdoor play area of roughly 8,600 square feet, and a chain link fence 4 feet in height will surround the play area and daycare center. Landscaping requirements for street trees, vehicle surface buffer, and buffers are being proposed and meet the requirements of the city ordinance. Exterior sidewalks are not shown on the submitted site plan. However, since the proposed uses for new construction, sidewalks are required. The applicant is requesting a modification of the sidewalk requirement. If the modification is approved, the applicant will be required to pay a fee in lieu of $4,119.66 for sidewalk construction. The property is not located within a special flood hazard area, and city water and sewer services are available to serve the property. An 18-foot wide by 12-foot wide concrete pad is shown behind the proposed daycare for 2 solid waste dumpsters. The dumpsters will be screened in accordance with the city standards. Interconnectivity has been provided on the south side of the proposed parking lot. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for Council's meeting on July the 15th. And here is a picture of the site. And this is a picture of the existing dwelling that is to remain on site. The site will be subdivided. Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Seeing no questions, this is a public hearing for Z1119 Joyful Play Child Care. They're requesting a zoning change for a portion of the property from R16 residential to GBCD, which is General Business Conditional District, in conjunction with site plan approval to allow the operation of a child care daycare. Would anybody like to speak? Anybody like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and we'll move on to the item E, which is Z1219 Johnny Jordan Coley.
Item E is Z1219 Johnny Jordan Coley's Internet Cafe. The subject property is located on the south side of Arrington Bridge Road between Bill Lane Boulevard and Casey Mill Road. The applicant is requesting a zoning change for property located at 1462 Arrington Bridge Road from neighborhood business to general business conditional district for the electronic gaming operation, or what we know as Internet Cafe. The subject property was satellite annexed in August of 1989. Since that time, it has operated as a grocery store, convenience store, and restaurant. In 2017, the property sustained extensive damage from the effects of Hurricane Matthew. Since that time, there have been no repairs or renovations made to the existing building. Currently, the building and lot are vacant, and the property owner is in process of selling the property. As stated previously, the applicant is proposing to rezone the subject property from neighborhood business to general business conditional district for an electronic gaming operation. Surrounding zones, you have to the north, south, east, and west residential R20A. On May 8, 2017, Goldsboro City Council approved an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance regarding electronic gaming operations within the city limits in the city's 1 mile ETJ. The following regulations were approved by City Council. Electronic gaming operations are only permitted in the general business zoning district. No establishment shall be located within 500 feet of any residentially zoned or developed property, church, school, daycare, playground, or public park. No such establishment shall be located within 1 mile of another similar establishment. The hours of operation were limited to 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Electronic gaming facilities are only permitted after the conditional use permit approved by City Council, and the number of parking spaces for electronic gaming operations are based on 1.5 spaces per computer machine and 1 space per employee. The submitted site plan indicates or shows an existing 2,300 square foot single-story building on masonry construction. The applicant's proposed floor plan shows an assembly area consisting of 18 machines, an office, a storage area, lobby, and restrooms for patrons of the facility. Employees would be 1, and hours of operation are Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to midnight. The parking requires 28 parking spaces, and the submitted site plan shows 6 existing paved parking spaces at the front of the facility. The applicant is proposing 12 parking spaces located in the rear of the facility and an additional 11 parking spaces upon private property directly east and adjacent to the site. The adjacent private property owner has agreed to enter into a long-term lease with the applicant to use a portion of the property for parking as long as the business is in operation. The applicant proposes to remove the existing 400 square foot accessory building located at the rear of the property for the provision of the customer parking spaces and proper circulation on site. Vehicular surface areas and parking areas are required to be paved and striped. The applicant is requesting a modification of the paving requirement for vehicular surface areas and parking spaces located in the rear and side yard of the property. If approved, the applicant is proposing to use gravel in lieu of asphalt or concrete. Due to the existing site conditions, the applicant is requesting a modification of the city's landscape requirements as they pertain to street trees, vehicular surface buffers, and landscape buffer yards. The applicant states that the landscape plantings will leave insufficient room for parking spaces required. The site is located in a 100-year floodplain, and any new construction or development will require compliance with the city's floodplain regulations. Seymour Johnson Air Force Base has been notified of the proposed use. Because the subject property falls within the 70-74 noise contour, the applicant will be required to incorporate noise attenuation measures into the design or construction of the portions of the building where the public is received or assembled. Again, the applicant is requesting the following modifications. Modification of the 500-foot separation distance from residentially zoned or residentially developed property, modification of the paving required for vehicular surface areas and parking spaces, and a modification of the city's landscape ordinance or requirements. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council at their meeting on July the 15th. And here is a picture of the facility. Any questions for staff?
Seeing no questions, this is a public hearing, Z1219 Johnny Jordan College Internet Cafe. Applicants request a zoning change for property located at 1462 Arrington Bridge Road from neighborhood business to general business conditional district for an electronic gaming operation, Internet Cafe. Would anybody like to speak? Anybody like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and move to the next, which would be item F.
Item F is Z1319 Dewey Street Properties, LLC. The subject properties are located on the north side of West Grantham Street between Hargrove Street and Jordan Boulevard. The applicant's requesting a zoning change for 2 individual properties located at 1211 and 1203 West Grantham Street from general business to highway business. and the applicant is the owner of both properties. On October the 20th of 2014, council approved 1211 West Grantham Street for the operation of a used car dealership with high-end, high-performance autos, including the accessory uses of restoration, service, and repair. In addition, council approved site and landscape plans detailing the proposed development with the following modifications. Modification of a Type C buffer along the western property line, a modification of the eastern Type A 10-foot wide buffer to allow placement of a 6-foot high fence with no additional landscaping, and a modification of the existing freestanding sign height and area from 25 feet tall to 49 feet tall, and from 80 square feet in area to 100 square feet in area. Since that time, the owner acquired the adjacent property directly east to the site and identified as 1203 West Grantham Street. Currently, the owner operates the site as an automated equipment installation, repair, and service facility. As previously stated, the applicant is proposing to rezone the two individual properties from general business to highway business. Surrounding zones, to the north you have R6, to the south general business and office and institutional, to the east office and institutional, general business and residential R16, and to the west general industry. Here is an aerial of the site. This is the comprehensive land use plan showing that the site is proposed for commercial development. And again, these are elevations of the property. The property owner proposes to rezone the property for the purpose of reclassifying an existing non-conforming freestanding sign at 1211 West Grantham Street to a conforming high-rise sign, which you can see in the picture and is currently identifying L's Place on the sign. If approved, the owner intends to combine the two separate parcels into one in order for both businesses to share the proposed high-rise sign. According to the city's Unified Development Code, the high-rise signs are allowed in the highway business zoning district if the business or businesses are contiguous to a controlled access highway as defined by NCDOT. The subject properties are located along US 70 highway, which is a controlled access highway. City sign regulations require high-rise signs not to exceed a height of 100 feet in height and no more than 250 square feet in area. The existing freestanding sign, as previously stated and granted a modification as previously approved, is 49 feet in height and 100 square feet in area. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council on July the 15th. And again, this is just a closer picture of the high-rise sign. Any questions for staff?
Seeing no questions, this is a public hearing for Z 1319 Dewey Street property, requesting a zoning change for two individual properties at 1211, 1203 West Grantham from general business to highway business. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and we'll move to item G.
Good evening. Item G is a public hearing for UDO text amendment to include microbreweries within the Unified Development Ordinance. The City Council adopted the Unified Development Ordinance on April 4th of 2005, which replaced existing land development regulations for the City of Goldsboro and its ETJ. Since that time, the UDO has been amended over the years to address a number of minor text corrections and major changes as directed by the Council. Currently, a number of proposed changes for consideration are minor text amendments to sections within the UDO under Section 5.0 zoning and Section 9.0 definitions as follows. Section 5.4 are table permitted uses, Section 5.5 submittal use regulation, and Section 9.2 definitions. These proposed changes are to reflect the addition of microbreweries as a conditional use within the Central Business District, General Business District, Shopping Center District, and the Highway Business Zoning District. A notice of public hearing listing all the sections of the UDO under consideration for amendment was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the newspaper and posted on the city's website for review. The minor changes which are included for possible amendment include amending Section 5.4 table permitted uses by adding microbreweries as a conditional use in the same business, personal services as bars, nightclubs, pool halls, places of entertainment with ABC permit, bowling alleys, and miniature golf facilities. Also by amending Section 5.5 supplemental use regulations by adding to subsection 5.5.4 special and conditional use specific regulations to include microbreweries and editing the Central Business District exceptions as it pertains to bars, nightclubs, pool halls, places of entertainment with ABC permit regulations, and amending section 9.0 definitions by including within subsection 9.2 definitions, a definition of microbrewery. I just want to go over, in your packets, you have the revised language for microbreweries. Under the supplemental regulations listed under the Central Business District exceptions, we are looking to extend the boundary within the area of the CBD, bounded by the south side of Ash Street, the east side of George Street. It originally said the north side of Chestnut. We are now extending that to Elm Street and the west side of William Street, and there shall be no minimum separation distance from residentially zoned or development property, and a 50-foot separation distance shall be required. Originally it said just for churches and schools. We are now defining churches as freestanding churches to have that minimum of 50 separation distance. And this again is for the category of bars, nightclub, pool halls, including microbreweries, places of entertainment with ABC permit. For the remainder of the Central Business District, not described by the boundaries above, the minimum separation distance from residentially zoned or developed property, again, freestanding churches or schools, shall be 100 feet. There shall be no more than 2 such establishments, with the exception of microbreweries located per city block, defined as the length of the street between 2 intersections. We are adding the regulation, there shall be no more than 5 microbreweries located within the area of the CBD bounded by the south side of Ash Street, the east side of George Street, the north side of Elm Street, and the west side of William Street. And within the area of the CBD bounded by the south side of Ash Street, the east side of George Street, the north side of Elm Street, and the west side of William Street, there should be no minimum off-street parking requirements. And just to clarify the definition of a microbrewery, it is an establishment where beer and malt beverages are made on the premises and then sold or distributed, and which produce less than 15,000 barrels, and a barrel is approximately 31 gallons of beer per year. Microbreweries sell to the public by one or more of the following methods: a traditional 3-tier system, the 2-year system, and again, the 2-tier and the 3-year systems are identified in the definition, and directly to the customer or consumer. Microbreweries may also include beverage tasting facilities and entertainment on premises with approved ABC permits. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for your July 15th meeting. Any questions for staff?
Was there a reason in particular where we decided to amend our ordinance? Is it because there's potential companies that want to come here and start microbreweries?
Yes, sir. The Planning Department has had several inquiries about that use, and we did not have that use within our ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? All right, if not, this is a public hearing to amend our UDO to allow microbreweries. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think we have enough beer halls and alcohol places downtown?
Okay.
Don't you think we have enough around here?
Okay. Are you finished?
Yes, for
Okay.
the time being.
Would anybody else like to speak? Anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and move to the next, which is item H.
Item H is another UDO text amendment. It's for UDO 319, which is our demolition by neglect ordinance that is currently in our Unified Development Ordinance. Again, the City Council adopted a Unified Development Ordinance in 2005, which replaced existing land development regulations for the City of Goldsboro and its ETJ. Currently, a number of proposed changes for consideration are minor text amendments to the section within the UDO under Article 5.0 zoning as follows, which is Section 5.11 demolition by neglect. Proposed changes are to consider changing the name of the program to Order to Repair and update program standards. A notice of public hearing listing all the sections of the UDO under consideration for amendment was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the newspaper and posted on the city's website for review. Minor changes included for possible amendment include amending Section 5.11 demolition by neglect by renaming to Order to Repair, Amending section 5.11.1 standards by including additional standards. There are 6 additional standards that we would like to include that relate to flooring, exterior chimneys, exterior plasters, weather protection for exterior walls, and those types of changes are roof coverings, lack of paint, etc. Sidewalk steps and pathways, and the character, if deteriorating, the character of a district. Amending section 5.11.2, the review authority by including planning director as having the authority to assure compliance of the ordinance as well as the chief building inspector. Amending section 5.11.3, petition and action by adding minor language regarding the inspection process for order to repair. Amending section 5.11.4, safeguards from undue economic hardship by adding minor language regarding the filing process. And amending section 5.11.5, committee's actions on demolition by neglect claims by renaming to committee's actions on order to repair claims and adding minor language regarding the committee's process to make a finding of undue or no undue economic hardship. An addition of section 5.11.8, which is penalties and remedies, by adding language that indicate enforcement options by the city. If you refer to your handout, you have the ordinance or the proposed amended ordinance in front of you. Again, you'll see under number 1 standards, the additional standards in red that I just discussed regarding deterioration of flooring, deterioration of external chimneys, deterioration of exterior plasters, defective protection or lack of weathering protection for exterior walls, and again, deterioration that has a detrimental effect upon a special character of a district. Also, number 2, the review authority. This is simply adding the planning director as a review authority, or one in that seat, along with the chief of building inspector. We will work together to enforce this ordinance. So we are just adding planning director. So a lot of the text changes does put in planning director and inspector or chief building inspector. Under petition and action, again, it's just adding planning or minor text changes, being more transparent regarding that process. That one goes through and to file a petition listing defects. Under section 5, again, it in the original ordinance, it stated the planning director was on the hardship review committee. Since the planning director will help oversee and have review authority to this, we did take out the planning director as one sitting on the hardship review committee, and included the community development director, the finance director, and the city engineer as the hardship review committee, and listed the process in which they go through for that committee review process. And the major other text amendment is the addition to penalties and remedies. Again, this is the enforcement of this section and the enforcement tools that the city has for this ordinance. They do relate to general statutes that we could use. It does not mean we are going to use them, and it's just a tool that we could use to enforce some of this ordinance. Again, this is all a process that we have had in place for many years. We're just being more transparent with who can be the review authority and the enforcement tools that the city has that they can use to enforce and hope keep homes and buildings, non-residential structural buildings, any dwellings, from deteriorating any further. At this time, there's no action. Planning Commission will have a recommendation for your July 15th meeting. Any questions for staff?
Any questions? All right, if not, thank you, Jennifer. This is a public hearing for UA 319, Repair and Neglect Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak? Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Charles Wright. I live at 200 Tanya Drive, Goldsboro. I'm passing out a flyer. Evidently, you already have part of this demolition order to repair in your folders already. In fact, your copy probably would be a lot better than mine. In the original copy, most of the changes is outlined in red, because I also gave copies to the Planning Commission, so that's the big difference. a lot of the changes is outlined in red because I use a black and white printer. Everything is in black. But I had a couple comments I'd like to make. One, I believe this article requires more background information before a reasonable decision to adopt its use is discussed. Two, are the amendments changes necessary to benefit the citizens of Goldsboro? Three, will the adoption of these amendments changes disproportionately adversely affect at-risk, low, middle-income neighborhoods in Goldsboro? Four, are these amendments changes required by statute changes or legal requirements? Five, are these amendments changes intended to increase the authority and responsibility of the planning director, position inserted 23 times, while simultaneously decreasing the authority and responsibility of the chief building inspectors? Duties are co-shared 21 times and eliminating the word chief inspector 6 times, just leaving the word inspector. 6, can the planning commission be unbiased or expected to be while evaluating a document that heavily involves the planning director? 7, Article 511 is a very important unified development ordinance that can have significant devastating impact on Goldsboro homeowners. Consequently, background information, due process, and a methodological decision process must prevail before our citizens, planning commission, and city council can reach a well-grounded, informed decision. Number 8, I wholeheartedly recommend any action regarding Article 5.11, demolition by neglect, which is going to be changed to demolition by order to repair, be deferred on this Monday, June 17, 2019, until such time more information is forthcoming. Number 9, I thank the City Council for this opportunity to be heard. Did anybody have any comments on what I presented?
We will be sure the planning commission has your comments.
Oh, they've got a copy of it.
Okay, well, no action is going to be taken tonight anyway. It's got to go to them, as you know, so they'll have a recommendation. Okay?
Well, I just want to thank you for bringing these points out. There's a lot of things in, a short time frame that we may not catch. So I'm glad that you are out there and, you looked at things from a different perspective as far as who it will affect. Because a lot of times we don't get an opportunity to see who this will affect, and it will affect people in my community. So I appreciate that. And
well, I just like a little more background information. If it could be published publicly, it would help when people read the paper to know, well, why is this necessary? What's been going on in the city in the past? Why are we getting something new? And that's all. I mean, I know you guys work with these amendments every day and ordinances, and it's just routine to you, but when you read them, it may not come across the average reader, myself included. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night. Would anybody else like to speak on this? Anybody else? Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
good evening.
I just want to make a quick comment about it, and that is, these amendments were brought to my attention about a week ago, and I tend to try and watch the city website, the section on important announcements, to find out what's going on within the city. And this particular notice was not among the important announcements. Where it was located was on the web page of the planning department, a tab regarding it. So I think if we are looking to have transparency within the city, it would help if there is an amendment to change an ordinance. That is important information, and it should be placed on the important announcements, which is the first page of the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Would anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Sir. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. David L. Craig. I live at 509 Shelley Drive, Goldsboro, North Carolina, 27534. I have a couple of comments that I want to make concerning these proposed changes. Please forgive me, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm gonna go with it.
Need to be nervous, sir.
All right. The first thing I note is that the role of the planning director is greatly expanded with the proposed changes throughout. Second, the added text in line 1 and 2 especially emphasizes that a city employee has the right to file a petition. The question is why, when the statute already reads property owners or other concerned parties may file a petition. The existing statute already includes city employees. So again, I question why. Third, the proposed statute reads that the earliest a petition can be filed listing the defects is 6 months after the new ordinance is adopted. However, it then says that the director or inspector will use the same 6-month time frame to systematically inspect these buildings and or structures within the corporate limits of the city of Goldsboro. Does this mean all buildings and or structures within the corporate limits of the city of Goldsboro are to be inspected? Or does this mean that there are already buildings and structures that the director of planning and or the chief building inspector have in mind? This part of the statute needs to be clarified and resubmitted. Normally, it would make no sense to pass something that has no clear meaning, but sometimes I wonder if we're in normal times. The second thing I look at is I actually stand in opposition to the community development director being on the hardship review committee because the community development director is already overworked. Sometimes a person can have so much placed on them that it diminishes their capacity to function at their normal, excellent level. Some people call it burnout. Some people call it cognitive depletion. Whatever the case, you rarely can have a person adequately doing the work for 4 or 5 people over a protracted time frame. It will take its toll. Then too, I'm not going to go with that, but that's concerning that. My last set of comments regards specifically the very last section, 5.11.8e. And when you read it, the very last thing it says, well, I'll read it to you. If penalties, fines, and/or fees total $3,000 or more, and the property has not been substantially improved, repaired pursuant to the order, then at the discretion of the planning director, any other legal remedies available to the city of Goldsboro may be implemented / pursued, including but not limited to those contained in North Carolina General Statute 160A-439.1. The point is that it involves who can be appointed as a receiver. Now, under the general statutes, it says within 30 days of the date on which the notice was mailed, the owner of the property has recorded with the Register of Deeds any mortgage with a recorded interest in the property, and all other parties in interest as defined in GS 160A-442 may apply to intervene in the proceeding and be appointed receiver. The point is interested parties. The language that was changed in the ordinance specifically says that city employees can be interested parties. It gets deeper. Then later on, it says, and this is the general statute, no member of the petitioning city's governing body or public officer of the petitioning city is qualified to be appointed as a receiver in that action. Basically, a receiver is a person that basically takes control of the property, either demolishes it, rehabs it, and then resells it. And so the question is, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to slide something under here so that city employees can become receivers? But there's other issues as well. Also, I'll leave this with you, but, definitions of interested parties. Here's another point. North Carolina General Statute 14-234 says, no public officer or employee who is involved in making or administering a contract on behalf of a public agency may derive a direct benefit from the contract except as provided in this section. And then further down it says, okay, and it makes it seem like it's okay. An interest in property conveyed by an officer or employee of a public agency under a judgment, including a consent judgment entered by a superior court judge in a condemnation proceeding initiated by the public agency. So it makes it seem like, okay, it's okay. So what I'm saying is the language needs to be clear. If you're going to give city employees the right to take receivership of these properties after a city employee is the person that petitions, you need to say that. All right? Another general statute, misuse of confidential information. It is unlawful for any officer or employee of the state or an officer or an employee of any of its political subdivisions in contemplation of official action by himself or by a government unit with which he is associated, or in reliance on information which was made known to him in his official capacity and which has not been made public, to commit any of the following acts: acquire a pecuniary interest in any property, transaction, or enterprise, or gain any pecuniary benefit which may be affected by some information or official action, or intentionally aid another to do any of the above same acts. What that says is that the city needs to be careful, because the information needs to be put out in public. Hypothetically, the mayor or the city council cannot communicate with the planning director about what's going on and then turn around and purchase these properties, or be awarded as receiver. So,
well, let me
yes,
say
sir. No, sir.
Two things. We got an attorney, so we'll let him respond.
Yes, sir.
But I think, to clarify, no city employee could in any way, shape, or form have anything to do with receivership. But I'll let the city attorney tell you. He knows the law. I don't. But I don't think the intent was for any city person to have anything to do with it. Ron, do you see?
No, it's not. The statute itself was written so that the court has to appoint the receiver. The city doesn't do it anyway. The city employee or city official, the city itself cannot be the receiver. So it's going to have to be some sort of third party. And in fact, an owner of the property can be a receiver. And I think the intent of that receivership statute is that if you have heir property, you have 6 or 7 people that own it, house is falling into neglect, that one person can't just on his own make repairs when you have 5 or 6 other people with an interest in the property. They could, but they face the fact that that person has an interest in what you've done to it as well. Gives them the opportunity, because it says in the statute as well that that particular owner can also petition the court, file an affidavit with the city. City petitions the court, have a receiver appointed, and one of the owners can be appointed. So the idea of the statute is that properties that are vacant, whether they're residential properties or whether they're commercial properties, but if they're vacant, it allows the city to step in and try to stop further deterioration, which obviously can be a health hazard. It can be, it can allow, crime to take place on a property it's not intended to. You've got grass or vermins or whatever else that might start to accumulate on the property. So that was the intent of the statute.
May I ask you a question? You may. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. But the way the statute reads, the general statute of the state of North Carolina, interested persons that actually petition the agency or the city also they're able to go into receivership of the property by a judge. What I'm saying is, let's just clarify what the language says, what a city official or employee can or cannot do, and let's keep the process transparent so that there isn't this sharing of confidential information. That's the only thing I'm saying. Thank you, sir.
And you can leave your comments, if you will, with Jennifer, and that way we'll be sure they get to the planning commission. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak on this issue? Anybody else? All right, seeing now, we're going to close this public hearing and move to item I.
Item I is street closing for Titleist Drive. On April 11, 2019, Lane Farms LLC requested staff to close a portion of Titleist Drive based on NCDOT realignment of Salem Church Road and US 70 bypass that is located within the city limits. The reference street section has been identified on the attached map indicating the length and right-of-way width. The petition street closing has been forwarded to the Fire, Police, Engineering, and Public Works Departments for their review. No objections to any of the closings have been submitted. The Engineering Department did indicate that a utility easement should be retained over this section of Titleist Drive for an existing 6-inch water line if the right-of-way is closed. If the street section is closed, ownership of the right-of-way would return to the property owner. The council on May 6, 2019 adopted a resolution of intent setting the public hearing, and that resolution was advertised for 4 weeks in the newspaper. Adjacent property owners were notified of the public hearing by certified mail, and the street section was posted with notice of the public hearing. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council's meeting on July 15th. Any questions for staff?
All right, this is a public hearing for the closing of Titleist Drive. Would anybody like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing, and we'll excuse our hard-working planning commission, and thank y'all for coming, and thank y'all for what you do. And when is the meeting? This coming Monday? The 24th, here at 7 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come to discuss the items you've heard tonight, Monday at 7 o'clock in the room next door. No, it's actually here, right? Yeah, it's here. All right, thank you guys. You're welcome to stay. All right, next we got item J, which is the public hearing for the 2019-20 draft annual action plan.
I'll be removing myself because of you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening, ma'am.
Item J is the public hearing for the FY 19-20 draft annual action plan to allow the citizens of the City of Goldsboro the opportunity to discuss and express their comments regarding housing and non-housing needs that exist in the Goldsboro community as they relate to the 2019-2020 draft annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Home Program. It is statutorily required by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for all grantees receiving annual allocations of CDBG and home funds to submit an annual action plan by August 16, 2019, regardless of delay in federal budget. A 30-day comment period began on May 17, 2019, and will end on June 17, 2019. A public hearing must be held during this public comment period. Comments received at this public hearing and received from the public meeting held on June 14, 2019 will be incorporated as part of the final 2019-2020 annual action plan. An advertisement was published in the Goldsboro News August on May 6, 2019 pertaining to holding a public hearing on May 31, 2019, the scheduling of a June 17, 2019 public hearing, and the 30-day comment period for review. A second advertisement was published on June 4, 2019 pertaining to rescheduling of the May 31, 2019 public meeting to June 14, 2019, and the scheduling of a June 17, 2019 public meeting. The final 2019-2020 annual action plan will identify activities to be funded with the city's FY 19-20 CDBG and home funding allocation. Primarily, the objective of the CDBG and home program are to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, and expanding economic opportunities, mainly for persons of low to moderate income. The city anticipates FY 19-20 allocations to include $328,479 in CDBG funds and $214,732 in home funds. Additionally, the city will have available approximately $34,363 in prior year CDBG funds and $324,726 in prior year home funds. This is based off the balance of May 1st of 2019. Due to the restrictive use of funds placed on the home program to focus on projects and or activities designed exclusively to create affordable housing or maintain affordable housing for low to moderate income households, The city has historically each year carried over a substantial amount of prior year home funds when it has not undertaken large development projects. Excuse me. The 2019-20 Annual Action Plan is the fifth and final year of implementation. A summary of the 2019-2020 draft Annual Action Plan proposed activities and use of funds is included. Consultation with nonprofits and community agencies have not been completed. Staff have received so far in writing 3 comments to incorporate into the Annual Action Plan. You all have in your excuse me, I'm moving along too far. At this time, there's no actions necessary. The Community Relations Department will have a final recommendation of the 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan for the Council's meeting on July 15, 2019. You all have in your package more of a detailed explanation of the budget of the action plan. Staff saw that it was necessary to provide this additional information, which was published under the important information notes of the city website and was presented during the June 14th public meeting. What you have before you in your package and also on the screen is the published budget that was published May 6th in 2019 in the News August. Again, this was a proposed activity and use of funds. From discussions that we've had with interested parties and citizens, we have revised, we have provided a recommended change to that proposed activities and use of funds to be as follows. The housing and rehabilitation line item has $3,120. That amount is just for inspections. As you all are aware, through your urgent repair grant that we receive, we do rehab work through that funding. So that is a leverage that allows us to reallocate our CDBG funds towards other eligible activities. So as I stated, there's only $3,120 for the inspection fees that will be assisting the urgent repair funds. Homebuyer assistance was originally at $30,000. Due to further discussion of citizens who are experiencing issues as far as related to the flood, who are looking to be bought out, and there is some gap funding, but there is some cases where they're needing a little bit extra to be able to go into a more affordable home that they will not have a mortgage. And I'm referencing mainly our senior population or our low-income population that have multiple individuals in the household. They don't want that burden of a mortgage. Currently, they don't, and to get the buyout and have some type of gap funding to probably help them. So we asked to reallocate funds from the CHODO line item of $60,000 to homebuyer assistance to go along with any that we do through our regular traditional homebuyer assistance program of attaining a mortgage to purchase a primary residence. Again, as I stated, it is being reallocated from CHODO. Public facilities was originally $250,000. We are asking to take $10,000 and reallocate the public service. As you have in your proposal, there are proposed agencies to be funded. One is Watch for $10,000. The other agency under public services for CDBG is WISH for $10,000, MPI for $5,000, the Crisis Center for $2,000, and School Street Learning Center for $6,635. That is for a kindergarten boot camp. In conjunction, I will tell you that the total cost of that program will not be consumed all by CDBG. We are also partnering with Housing Authority to cover some of the costs of that program as well. So we've asked, as I stated, to reallocate $10,000 from public facilities and place it in public service. In your public facility line item, that $240,000, $150,000 of that is for the debt service of W.A. Foster, which you all have contributed towards the overall debt payment. The city of Goldsboro also has in this line item, minus the $10,000, $90,000 for storm drainage repair. It has to be done within a low mod census tract area that is primary residential and is for assisting low to moderate income residents. And it has to be for storm drainage that is publicly owned by the city of Goldsboro, which typically they all are. So that is what your public facility line item is for. I've already gone over your public services, showing you that it was originally $23,635, with the increase of $10,000 allows you to assist another nonprofit agency under CDBG. There's no fund allocated to demolition and clearance or transitional housing. Your CHODO, as you can see, is now at a little over $432,000. The intent of the CHODO funds is twofold. It is to fund what we call community housing development organizations that are primary focused on projects that are owned or developed and sponsored by a nonprofit that qualifies as a CHODO as defined in the HUD standards. The type of development activities projected that involves acquisition, rehab, and or new construction of housing for sale, rent to low and moderate income residents. As I stated, we've asked you all to remove $60,000 from that line item, which to be reallocated home buyer assistance. I will tell you at this time we are soliciting applications for CHODO, but one of the main focuses of this funding is to possibly help with our affordable housing shortage. Before Hurricane Matthews, low to moderate income residents, renters, were already living in substandard housing, or there was a lack of it. When Hurricane Matthews and Florence came through, that increased the number, that burden on low to moderate income renters. Those who are traditionally not ready to move into home ownership or prefer not to. And they are currently now being burdened to pay more than 33% of their rent, their income towards rent. And that is a high burden on low to moderate income residents. So the city of Goldsboro is looking to increase the housing of affordable rental units and provide more affordable units that are not public housing Section 8. There are more housing that is workforce, teachers, firefighters, even some of our residents that are working in construction, subcontractors, that would be able to have nice, decent, affordable housing. If it does not take that whole funding to leverage a project, then it could be used for other housing like construction as traditionally done in the past with Habitat. But as I stated, that large amount is where the prior year fund was placed, because that money has to be used towards something that's affordable housing. It can also be used towards homeowner rehabilitation, but the fact that you have your urgent repair funds and it's been currently assisting our residents, I've moved the funding where we are trying to do a bigger project to maximize the dollars. That's one of the things that HUD says. Look at how you maximize your federal dollars. You currently have an economic development, a little over $23,000. Right now, that is to fund your summer youth program, a portion. There is a portion of, I think, a little over $27,000 that's coming out of general funds, but this is also to assist with the funding of those summer youth employees for the 2 tracks of the 6 weeks. Program administration, as you can see, you have a grand total of a little over $87,000. As you all know, with the CDBG, HUD only allows you to use 20% of your funding for admin. They only allow you to use 10% of home funds. This amount, a little over $87,000, is to cover 50% of my salary, 100% of the community development specialist, as well as any other planning of plans or admin costs for our department, and as well as to facilitate those other projects. I will tell you, in the past, we've utilized that to pay for some inspections and other type of extra projects out of the admin. Local match. The city is typically required to match 25% on every home dollar you receive. For the last 6 years, I have submitted a letter to ask for a waiver, so that will be a saving for the city of Goldsboro, a little over $26,000. What a lot of people don't know, they recently saw that we were a disaster declared county or city. We have been a disaster declared county city for over 6 years. We are a a tier 1 county. Therefore, we have a lot of distress in our area, and we're a very high poverty stricken county. I've talked about your urgent repair. That is a funding that we get through North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. We applied for that grant in January. We received our award letter. Therefore, we've included that in your action plan to show where you're leveraging your federal dollars with state grants to do rehab. Essential single-family disaster recovery, the 13 homes that we got approved through North Carolina Housing Finance for disaster recovery. As you all remember, that's $50,000, $40,000 for hard costs, $10,000 for admin. We are going to be completing those projects this year. So far, we've already completed 3, and we're going to be requesting the reimbursement of the city portion towards those projects. So that's $130,000. There is one other line item that's not here that you all have heard through the media. When the governor announced that we got $350,000 towards affordable housing unit, we do not have that included in here because we have not received the actual award notice from the governor's office. Once that is provided, we will include that in your action plan with an amendment. And it will also be done with a budget ordinance into the department's budget at that time once we receive it. You'll see that there's really no change in the dollar amount. You still have a little over $1.1 million. I have just asked if we could reallocate this. This is not your final budget. Through this consultation process, we do anticipate there probably be some changes. I will tell you one of the comments I've received in writing so far that I read before this meeting start, I can already see that there's a need for additional money to move into workforce job training like we've done in the past to Wayne Community College. So this is not your final budget. That is why there's no action required today. I will have a final budget for you all about your CVG and home funds at your July 15th meeting. Is there any question? I try to make sure I answer any you had.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Good presentation. Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing to discuss the fiscal year 1920 draft annual action plan. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak? Yes, sir.
I'll be first. Charles Wright. And good evening, Mayor, City Council. First, I'd like to just point out a couple things about the CBG process. Originally, the community meeting was scheduled for Thursday, May the 30th, 2019, and 2 citizens, myself and another citizen, came to the City Hall, and there was nobody there. At that time, the only plan that was available for us to use that was online was this plan here. It was 35 pages. That's what was online at that time when we was coming to the May 30th meeting to talk about this plan. And myself personally, I made a lot of notes, as you can see, and written out based upon this budget right here. I didn't put that in my packet, I didn't want, but it's online based upon that budget. Well, since that meeting didn't take place, it was rescheduled for it was rescheduled for June the 14th, a Friday, this past Friday. And when we got there to that meeting, little did I find out there was another budget. That's the one you just looked at. That's on the screen. That's the one we got just this past Friday. So all the notes and what I was wanting to say at the meeting May the 30th, I wasn't necessarily able, it didn't make sense for me to present a budget because now it had changed. This came out the day before in the morning at 10 o'clock on the website. Now, I just want to make sure you understand what happened, okay? We was prepared to talk about this May 30th. The meeting didn't take place. So I kept the notes because I said, well, I just bring up the same notes on June the 14th. But when June the 14th comes, this is what's handed out as we come through the door right in this chambers right here. So all the work I've done on this one is no good, so now I had to do work on this one. Having said all that, I just want to give you a background. That's very time consuming, and I do put a plan of the actual budget, and I just want to go through that. It is based upon this budget here you're just looking at. There are some differences. One has to do with housing rehabilitation. On the housing rehabilitation, with the budget I'm recommending, $100,000 go under that CDBG, that first block where it says housing rehabilitation. 100,000 I put under there. Why, Mr. Wright? Why would you put $100,000 when it's nothing there? But I've looked through 5 years worth of documents for the hub, and the number one priority out of 7, the number one priority is housing rehabilitation. So why would we give only $3,120 under housing rehabilitation when that's supposed to be our number one priority? HUD is about housing. So that's why I put $100,000 under housing rehabilitation. The home buyers assistance I did not change. I originally gave it an extra $10,000 when it was at 30, but it was boosted in the new budget to 90, so I left that alone. Under public facilities and improvement, that I knocked down to $119,148 under public facilities and improvement. And also under that, I will tell you that the $90,000 that's for stormwater drainage, I recommend not even funding stormwater damage. The city got 1.6, I have the exact figures on your plan, 1.6, let me give you the correct amount. The city got $1,658,558 for stormwater drainage, and these. The number is $1,658,858 from the CBG Community Development Block Grant -DR. DR means Disaster Recovery Funds. That was issued by the Wayne County to Goldsboro in that amount, and it was on. I have a copy of that. It was in 2017. I have a direct copy if any of the councilmen want that. And for my record, it's also on the city's budget, that amount. And also, I would say that I put down here that that's only this, we may be getting more funds through the state, the third year of CBG funds, disaster recovery, because they originally gave us 3 years, and the people in Raleigh thought the county, that was too much money, so they took back 1 year and only gave us 2 years worth of funding. That 1 year may still be coming to the county, in which case we may be getting more stormwater money. But also you remember that at least my bill went up $4.30 or something on my water bill for stormwater activities. And I'm just wondering, well, how much money do we keep needing for stormwater? I mean, is there something going on that we don't know about? But the city has already got over $1.6 million. So what I did with that is under that area, I appropriated $75,000 for a splash park, either at North End Park or W.A. Foster. The council is well aware of how many times Mr. Wright has been before this council talking about using disaster funds for neighborhood facilities improvement, And some of those improvements, including splash parks and playground fixtures and things, I've spoke about on at least 2 or 3 occasions. And Mr. Mayor himself promised my granddaughters right here that they will get their splash pad soon, as you quoted. But in any event, someone asked me, well, that had came up in the city council before, the splash pad for downtown. So why are you asking for it now? Well, I don't have anything against downtown, but downtown has been like, they've always got the big bite of the cookie for the last 8 years. They've gotten Tiger grant money to fix up a downtown, and now someone was proposing to use CBGR money for a downtown splash pad. I chose North End Park and W.A. Forster Park for two distinct reasons. One, because they have been identified as one of the 4 most, one of the 4 communities with the highest low to middle income ratio in that neighborhood. And also, those neighborhoods was very high as being identified as the most flooded out. So we didn't give them anything for flooding, and now we don't want to give them anything for CBG. That's like totally ignoring them. So that's why I said appropriated $75,000 for a splash pad, either at North End Park, which I conveyed, looked at probably about a year ago, and there's space currently for that, or W.A. Foster Center. I also took an additional $10,000 from that bracket and gave $10,000 to rebuilding broken places. So that's why on the budget you got, it should have $43,635, and I think on that budget it has $35,635 under public services. That extra $10,000 I added for rebuilding broken places. They have about 10 or 12 programs that help the needy, help adults, help children, and that was a part. Under the CHOA activities, I did not make any changes on that. Under economic development, I did not make any changes on that. Under program administration, I did not make any changes on that. Under urgent repair program, I did not make any changes on that. And under essential single family recovery, I did not make any changes on that. I do want to note that here again, when you look at the CBGR document, it gives you a list of priorities, 1 through 8. First priority is, like I said, is rehabilitation. I'm not going to go through all that, but I just want to point out to the council and the mayor that they put these priorities here for a reason, not to overlook. So we're here again, if the first priority is rehabilitation, your budget quite naturally have to show that in your spending. You can't have a number 1 priority as far as rehabilitation, and another public service or something is getting more than your $3,000 that you allow for rehabilitation. I also made some other comments that establish a standard, try to establish a standard for how these documents are going to be printed. And one of the standards is not to have any missing documents. What I found out in doing research, these documents is think of it like a grammar school. You have grades 1 through 5. This grant is set up on a 5-year goal, 5 years. This is our last year. We start up in 2015 to 2020, 5 years. So what usually happens is the action plan comes out first, then the true action plan, and then the report card, which is called CAPER. And all CAPER means is just a consolidated report, and that's a report that says, okay, this is what we plan to spend, this is how we plan to spend it. How good of a job did we do in meeting our goal and spending that money for that particular year? and how good collectively have we been over the last previous years. But it's very hard to gauge that because certain years were missing. And the years that was missing for the action plan, and when I say missing, I'm talking about when you go to the website, you see a list of the available documents. And as a nurse, I've always been trained, if there's no document on it, you didn't do it. As simple as that. So I don't know where they are, but it wasn't there. And that's very hard when you start trying to look at the 5-year goal. And it's 2 years, it's 2015 to 16 and 2018 to 2019, the Capers report. That's the report card. So we don't know what the report card was for that year because it's not on the site. Also, as far as the annual action plan, 2017 to 2018 is missing, is not on the site, and 2015 to 2016 is not on the site. So that's 2 years the annual action plan is not on the site, and 2 years the report card for that year or the Capers report. So it's very hard to say where we are as far as meeting our 5-year goals, our 1-year goals, what the action plan was for that year, how much we spent on this particular. So it's hard to evaluate if you don't have the documents online. So I would.
Quick question: if you said for 2 years that the action plan is not on the site,
I found it for action plan for 2017, 2018. I gave it backwards, but in 2015 to 2016, those 2 years.
so I could also assume that the Caper report is not there for those 2 years.
2015 to 2016, the 2015 to 2016, this is what was confusing, so I don't want to confuse the council anymore. There was one that listed a wrong date. It listed one date on the city website, but when I went to click it, it was a different date, a different year. So it was an error on here, but it still was one. So I'm talking about, well, this is what I found that was actually missing. So it's possible to have a Capers, by what I'm telling you, 2015, 2016, both is missing, the action plan and the report card or the Capers report. But in 2017 to 2018 is the annual plan that's missing. But in the Capers report is 2018 to 2019. So how can you have a report card with no report? I don't know. That's why I'm recommending that we try to have some standards and make sure these reports get online and get reported out appropriately. And it tries to follow some type of format, so you're not looking at different formats each year and trying to figure out, what they're trying to say. So that was one of my suggestions, because when you look at these for over the course of years, you see something that's common. I also put down on number 4, add at least 45 additional days. So that way, if the primary director is not able to meet a meeting or become sick or there's no one, you have a better lead time. What's happening this year, and maybe even years past, is that we take this too far up. The council is hearing about it. We just had our first community meeting this Friday, and already you got something we just got Friday. So it's very hard for the public to get something Friday and be able to come up before you and literally talk about something they just got just Friday night at that, unless they spend most of the weekend trying to put these stuff together, like myself and others had to do just to present this. And the last thing I want to recommend is that you immediately begin actions to establish 2 departments, Planning and Community Development Department, along with Commission on Planning and Community Development. Also, to go along with that, also 2 commissions. So you have a commission that involves citizens on the community relations department side, and you also have citizens that meet on planning. And we would be going back to the way it was in 2016. Now, I realize the council hasn't long changed this, and your wisdom at the time was combining these two, that you felt that they was very close together, that they can be combined. I'm standing in front of you to tell you that these two things are not very close, are not interrelated by a long shot. Look at your, if you want to, I don't have time to, I don't want to give you a whole lot of documents, but if you look at the job description for the Community Relations Director, it talks about the human side of it. There's nothing about grants or CDG or anything like that. So that's not even, right now, as I can understand it, it's not even a part of the job description that's online. But these are very, very different programs, and especially the money side, because there's North Carolina opportunity zones where we can write contracts that I spoke to the council about before. There's also there's also a big grant by a banking company, that JP Morgan grant, that I don't know if we take advantage of. But if you use models from other cities, especially maybe Greenville, they are very, very engaged, and their block grant people try to get grants, because we qualify for a lot of money, because we have so many neighborhoods that has already been identified by HUD. So all we have to do is put down our numbers, but it takes time, and it takes due diligence, and it takes more than just one person. They probably need at least 3 people, and as far as the section that works on planning and community development. And we left out the word planning. Planning is what means sitting down and actually planning a community. And all I like to say is, if we can think of the community development block grant being for our neighborhoods the same way as we think of the Tiger grant being for our downtown, we would be leaps and bounds. Our communities now, some of them would be, I won't say beautiful, but it would be a lot better than the way they look now. So moving forward, I would just like the council to think of community development block grants to be money to help the impoverished neighborhoods that's in our city. We have at least 5 or 6, the planning director can correct me, but I do know of 4 that is very in need, and they're in District 1, District 3, I think Mark Stevens District primarily. But these are monies that can be used for housing rehabilitation, sidewalks, playgrounds, a lot of different things. But just keep in mind, when you hear community development block grants in the future, CBGR, just think of neighborhood health, not downtown health, not paving sidewalks, not water. Even though these are legitimate things you can use in the community development block grant. I don't want somebody to come back and say these are things Mr. Wright said this. No, all these things you can use for that. I just think our emphasis need to be placed on actual housing repair and the neighborhood facilities repair, where and as well as some training and other things to help our community.
Mr. Wright, as always, I appreciate all the work that you put in. The opportunity zones that we have in our lower wealth communities. There's a lot of resources that we could be gaining right now to build those communities up. In your opinion, do you think there has been a lack of trying to reach out to get the funding for those opportunity zones?
Well, the way the opportunity zones work, as far as I understand it, and your director may be able to give you more information, but the way I understand it, it's a tax break for the very wealthiest of companies and individuals. And rather than pay what's called, when you make a lot of money, capital gains tax, the new legislation that came out and said, Mr. Lawrence, instead of you paying $10 million in capital gains tax, you can go out and choose any community that has a North Carolina opportunity zone. Go in there and build a clinic, or build a training center, or build something. And guess what, Mr. Lawrence? We will leave your $10 million or whatever you owe in taxes alone on capital gains. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Now, what's required of people at the local level is we communicate with the Department of Commerce and we communicate and find out exactly how do we position ourselves and what you guys like to call shovel ready. So have a plan, shovel ready, for somebody that want to put 5 million, 10 million, just have it, a plan ready, so all you have to do when the company comes calling and make that phone call, yes, we have something ready for you, and just soup up the numbers and soup up whatever. So that's how that works. It's not clearly defined yet, so I don't want to make it seem as though it's easy. But the same thing in a J.P. Morgan type of thing. They was actually looking for impoverished cities to give millions of dollars to. And I believe in a grant, the only thing people can say when you submit a grant is no. There's nothing lost, but it's a lot to gain. But you have to have that package ready to go. And that's where we could use improvement. To have ready-made packages, and all the council know about it, the people know about it. So when a business come calling and want to invest in these opportunity zone neighborhoods around North Carolina, they have a choice. Oh, you can go to, because mostly each county has some. So it's not just Wayne County, we'd be competitive. But our numbers, I can tell you now, would be very competitive.
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Would anybody else like to speak on this issue, on the draft annual action plan? Would anybody like to speak? Is that a yes? Okay, well, you just sit back down 1 second. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, okay? And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Or recess, I guess.
It's a lot of time to do it.
And we're still on the public hearing for the annual action plan, and Doc, you were gonna come up and speak. And if you want to beat Mr. Wright's time, it'll be okay. How are you?
Again. Let me first say I want to apologize for something. When I had this made up, and there's also copies for the city council. On it, it actually says candidate for Goldsboro City Council District 6. In case I did violate the law, I want to apologize, but nevertheless, if I'm fine, I'm willing to pay it. I do believe in the rule of law, and I do believe in taking responsibility of my action for my actions. All right, so let's begin. The Community Development Block Grant is an annual HUD grant. Its purpose is to assist localities and states in the development of viable communities. These viable communities are to be achievable by providing the following, principally for persons of low to moderate income. And these mechanisms are decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunities. The term principally means that at a minimum 70% of CDBG funds expended by a state or entitlement grantee should be used to the benefit of low to moderate income people. Then also we have the Home Investment Partnership Grant, and this grant is the largest federal block grant available to communities to create affordable housing. The intent of the home program is to increase the supply of decent, affordable housing to low and very low income households, expand the capacity of nonprofit housing providers, strengthen the ability of state and local governments to provide housing, and leverage private sector participation. In my view, the key issue facing the city's future use of CDBG and home funds lies in if the funds are strategically used so as to accomplish the creation of a viable community that has decent affordable housing for persons who are economically disadvantaged. It's a point that's said as much in the Home CDBG guidebook when it talks about a needs assessment being done as part of the consolidated planning process. To not have a coherent plan is like throwing something against the wall and hoping that it sticks. Secondly, Goldsboro is a divided town. One key division lies between those who want to push the city forward in terms of broad economic growth and opportunity, and those who want to benefit economically through nurturing the facade of Goldsboro being a bed and breakfast tourist town. Although the success of the city rests with both, the latter's political extension has tended to utilize policy in ways that advance their cause in ways that do not give priority to the needs of persons who are not economically well off. And this is done with subtle sleights of hand that often go unnoticed. For example, both District 1 and District 3 of the city have high rates of poverty, while also at the same time jointly containing the city's central business area within their consolidated boundaries. This area is what some term as the downtown business district, or Goldsboro, or simply downtown Goldsboro. Although the downtown area has undergone substantial revitalization over the past 12 years, some city officials have indicated that they are open to the idea of spending CDBG funds in the downtown area in ways that would not primarily benefit low to moderate income persons. At the City Council's work session on June 3rd, the city's planning director, Jennifer Collins, suggested that money from the city's CDBG funds could be used for the construction of bathrooms and a splash pad in downtown Goldsboro. I find the suggestion of such to be sacrilege.
Sir, I want to stop you. It wasn't Jennifer Collins.
It wasn't?
No.
It was
Ms. Metz.
Metz.
Yes, so just to clarify, but you're right on point with everything.
Yeah,
So.
just the name.
Well, I apologize. All right.
But you're on point.
I remember a comment was made. All right. However, upon reviewing the goal description for public facilities and improvements in the 2019-2020 action plan, it states This activity is designed to improve the overall infrastructures within low to moderate income census tract areas within the city limits. And I highlighted areas. The use of such language can be an attempt to qualify the city's usage of CDBG funds in a manner that is inconsistent with the grant's intended purpose. Drawn from the Home CDBG Guidebook, such a facility can qualify for CDBG funds if it benefits all residents in a particular area, in essence, the service area, where at least 51% of the residents are low to moderate income persons. Looking at it from this perspective, it appears placement of bathrooms and a splash pad in downtown Goldsboro would be an acceptable goal, because it falls in census areas where at least 51% of the residents are low to moderate income persons. However, the service area must be primarily residential, and the activity must meet the identified needs of low to moderate income persons. Downtown Goldsboro is not primarily a residential area, and the bathrooms and splash pads in question do not meet any identified need of low to moderate income persons. On the other hand, downtown area property and business owners would benefit, but then generally they are not low to moderate income persons. Of substantial note, the following graphic indicates that the city had plans for the aforementioned bathroom and splash pad at least as early as 2016. A second area of concern is that, excuse me, a second area of concern is the inadequate use of funds. This is supported by the rollover of $324,726 in CHODO appropriated funds from 2018. Community Housing Development Organization funds fall under home funding. Whenever the city became aware that these funds were not going to be used, the funds could have been reappropriated and used in other ways. The city could have used these funds to repair the homes of low-income persons. This could have been done in various ways, with the most beneficial for homeowners being in the form of a grant for supervised work. Within this framework, the city would have guaranteed payment to contractors once their work was completed and the entire home or structure was brought up to code. A similar plan could also be used with CDBG funds, although under CDBG guidelines, there is no code requirement for the entire home or structure. That said, a rent-ready standard could have been used. This means if a property in question is able to be brought up to a rentable condition at reasonable cost, then a grant for supervised work could be issued. By rentable condition, I mean a property condition wherein within 30 days of it being vacated, it could be rehabbed and ready for rent or sale at a reasonable cost. A grant for supervised work would not have necessarily been a grant at all, but one of the various loan types available under the home and CDBG programs. The key is in using both CDBG and home funds in ways that help low to moderate income persons, while at the same time working to create viable communities. Some may suggest that the city should not be in the business of placing liens on people's property. However, the city is already in the business of doing that. Currently, when the city has a house demolished, they then are able to place a lien against the remaining land and or property due to the owner's non-payment of demolition costs. If the owner does not pay, the city sells the property. Same principle. Depending upon a person's or household circumstance, the loan mechanism for a grant for supervised work could be structured differently. A 75-year-old person who owns their home does not need the added stress of a lien being placed against their property. However, if this person's home is falling into disrepair and they don't have the necessary resources for rehabilitation of their home, why would the city not structure a grant for supervised work in the form of a deferred payment loan? This way, the home would be brought up to a rent-ready standard while only at their passing will the loan go into repayment. This would allow this person to stay in their home and their property to be maintained. If this person was to go into assisted living, the property could then be rented as affordable housing, with those proceeds going towards servicing the loan or possibly providing some form of supplemental income for the recipient, as well as money for maintenance of the home. The repayment scheme for someone who is younger, of course, living under a different set of circumstances would be different. The primary purpose of CDBG and home funds is not to make the central business district of the city aesthetically pleasing, but rather to assist localities and states in the development of viable communities and in the creation of affordable housing through specific efforts aimed at benefiting persons who are low to moderate income. What then is needed? A key component in creating a viable community lies in the creation of sustainable employment. Under the city's goal of economic development, the city's summer youth employment program is briefly described. Although this program is very important to our community, this program is not economic development. The jobs simply are not sustainable and ongoing. So you have a goal description, there it is. My proposed usage of CDBG and home funds utilizes a four-pronged approach. Each aspect of the approach must be coupled with changes in city policy to more effectively utilize CDBG and home funds and to bring about the desired result. Proposal 1. It involves the creation of low-skilled sustainable jobs through a community-based development organization. This CBDO will oversee and manage the day-to-day functions of lawn care and landscaping, a lawn care and landscaping consortium, which will have as a priority the training and employment of persons from low to moderate income households who reside within the city of Goldsboro. Within the city of Goldsboro, there is no shortage of grass in need of being cut and or landscaping in need of maintenance. However, oftentimes, there is a non-licensed person or business entity from outside of the city who actually engage in doing substantial amounts of lawn care and landscaping within the city. For this reason, there should at least be a $100 required business permit, as well as insurance requirements for all lawn care and landscaping businesses based outside the city, with 2 exceptions. The first exception for non-city, and I say non-city, Wayne County-based businesses would be if these businesses have a makeup of in-the-field employees consisting of no less than 50% of persons from within the city, along with no less than 25% of their in-field personnel emanating from low to moderate income households within the city. Then they would be eligible for a waiver. The second exception is for non-city, non-Wayne County-based businesses. If this type of business entity has a 25% makeup of in-the-field employees from low to moderate income households from within the city of Goldsboro, then they too would be eligible for a waiver. In order to help non-city lawn care and landscaping businesses meet the waiver requirements, the CBDO will also provide oversight in both the licensing and waiver process, as well as maintain a pool of trained individuals from low to moderate income households who will be available for in-the-field work. Only after a non-city-based lawn care and landscaping business have made a reasonable effort to comply will they be granted a waiver. The CBDO will not only partner with lawn care and landscaping companies in order to meet its objectives, but the CBDO should have a pool of equipment in order to do on-the-job training. Other goals of the CBDO are to establish a consortium of lawn care and landscaping companies as the preferred lawn care and landscaping services within the city. The magnitude of lawn care and landscaping needs within the city can sustain a substantial number of jobs that can be of direct benefit to low to moderate income persons and households. This should begin to lessen entrenched poverty while keeping more of the money spent on commercial property upkeep here in the city. This is consistent with candidate to be Taj Polak's view on how to make Goldsboro a more viable community.
Sir,
Yes.
we can't have political statements here, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My second proposed usage of CDBG funds involves the creation of sustainable jobs by bringing into use city-owned lands having floodplain designation. Due to these lands being in the floodplain with an increased propensity of flooding, these lands have limited usage. Yet these lands are ideal for the growing of bamboo. So there I have pictures. You'll see the News Heights area and also the area right by the Highway Patrol Station. So the floodplain area known as News Heights and the floodplain area just northwest of the State Highway Patrol Station would be utilized for the growing of different types of bamboo. What follows are just a few of the products that can be grown and or created. Right now, we have a situation where there's bamboo flooring. I didn't even include a picture of this. And I also included a screenshot from a retailer, $85.67 for a 4x8 bamboo wall paneling. That's $85 from a natural resource that can be regrown. You cut it down, bamboo grows back. Another potential aspect of Proposal 2 is that the various bamboo types can be grown and cultivated in a way so as to generate tourism dollars through the creation of bamboo gardens. People pay to have nice relaxing walks in what appears to be scenic, somewhat natural settings. Furthermore, when people leave, they have to eat. And why not visit downtown Goldsboro? Proposal 3. My third initiative involves not only the creation of sustainable jobs while also removing an economic burden from the people of Goldsboro. The Goldsboro Municipal Golf Course should become the largest recreational area between the Triangle and the coast. My plan involves the following. 1, the creation of a professional grade mini golf course. Not only will it provide ongoing recreation, but it will be used annually to host a professional mini golf tournament. Again, bringing money into the community. Again, bringing money downtown. The creation of a quality indoor go-kart track, complete with a snack bar and canteen, so that when it is raining, people can take their kids to the go-kart track. The creation of a quality arcade and electronic game room areas, along with playhouses for not only children but also adults. 4, the creation of a water park that offers customers different experiences than those already offered by local competitors. The thinking is to not intentionally undercut others, but to offer what others do not. 5, the creation of a zip line course that can also be used as a mode of transportation to go from place to place throughout the overall park. And 6, the creation of rentable areas for carnival-like rides and vendors. This could be the primary place where carnival ride providers want to come during the time of the county fair. They could prefer to want to be at our golf course, which won't be a golf course then. And I included some pictures, all right? The overall park should be designed in a way that is aesthetically appealing while remaining true to its intended purpose. Therefore, the design landscape within the park should also contain different types of bamboo that is to be harvested. The harvesting of the bamboo should coincide with a story of the people of Goldsboro and their resilience in overcoming poverty. Proposal 4. My fourth proposal is to begin to create apprenticeships that progressively evolve into well-paid full-time jobs, from firefighter to jobs in the trades, record keeping, or even jobs within the field of nursing. The purpose is to give younger generations a more than average probability of succeeding. Much emphasis has been placed on the restoration and maintenance of Goldsboro's historic buildings. Today, I believe that the attention should be turned to the beauty of the people of Goldsboro so that we can be seen to transcend the aesthetics of rebuilt buildings and cobble streets. In other words, Goldsboro's most valuable resources, it's not our buildings, it's us. And so many of us are being passed by. And it's time to raise our brothers and sisters. Conclusions: the endeavors I have described, if instituted properly, along with the improvements already made to the downtown area, will not only generate revenues from tourism, but also spur other forms of economic growth, truly making Goldsboro one of the top cities in which to live. However, we are not there yet. In a report entitled Goldsboro Isolation and Marginalization in North Carolina, Dr. Jean Nickel and Dr. Heather Hunt say, the poverty and economic hardship experienced in Goldsboro is formidable and long-standing. It affects the entire city in the broadest terms. The challenges Goldsboro faces are sufficiently intense to merit a broadly organized, all-hands-on-deck approach. They further say, there is no magic bullet, and that while poverty is not intractable, the fight against requires patience and political and civic will. I think we now have all three. The city's past usage of CDBG and home funds, although probably legal, have not been utilized in a manner that most effectively benefits low to moderate income persons and or households. I tend to believe this is also the case with the proposed allocations described in the city's 2019-2020 annual action plan. Currently, the city of Goldsboro has a poverty rate of 25.9%. This means 1 out of 4 of our fellow citizens live in absolute poverty. This means literally that one fourth of our fellow citizens are at risk of one or more of their basic needs being unmet. With these things in mind, I hope this document brings a level of solidification to the dialogue that has already begun. To those who think themselves entitled to stop progress, perhaps you should deeply consider what it is you have to gain, as well as what it is that you have to lose. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on the annual action plan? Good evening, ma'am. How are you tonight?
Right. I would like to say hello to the members of the city government, the offices, city government.
Good evening.
I do not get here often, as Mayor Allen know that the county commissioners keep me busy. I came tonight just to stand up for Charles Wright. We call him the drum man, D-R-U-M, drum man. He does some deciding, relevant, urgent messages. Drum, D-R-U-M, deciding, relevant, urgent messages. Just to speak to a few of the issues, as you recall, he asked for just some money coming to 3 areas, and I want to speak about those 3 areas. First of all, the North End Park. Yes, need a little more money over there. Of course, I've been walking across the city some 10 years. I love to get out the vote, and many times when we are over there, We usually take a break in the park and use that park. It's very clean over there. There's a business over there somewhere. The men who take that break, they come out into the park area. And there are some families over there that use this park. So during the grassroots area, there's a good, useful, means of using that park. So please give them a little more money. Let's look at house rehabilitation. Yes, they need some more money too. As I walk from porch to porch and house to house here, a lot of times you see the doors, the wind have gotten in the doors and the doors about to knock you over if you go up there. And sometimes the bricks are big cinder blocks holding the doors back or holding them in place so they won't blow away. So with the rotten wood on the porch and the doors, a lot of people need house rehabilitation so that they can get some replacement parts. And sometimes the porch is about to fall down. So, I know, in some area, somebody can help that means too. And about rebuilding broken places, they need some more money also. They have a lot of good workers over there. They are very creative people. There are a lot of activities going on over there. I have taken a computer class over there. And people of all races go over there and use that building. There's another area that I got some help with. I didn't know I could get it, but Director John Barnes allowed me to do community service under his direction. 20 hours of work. Of course, I followed Reverend Barber to jail in Raleigh, and we got locked up at the General Assembly. So as I had to pay my $180, I had to come back to Goldsboro and find somebody that would sign me up and allow me to make my 20 hours of service. So in that particular case, there was another use of the rebuilding broken places, and I was glad I could get rid of that bad record so I could go over and substitute teach in one of the schools. All right, about the man himself, Charles Wright. After teaching in the classroom 41 and a half years, I learned about Mr. Wright over in the NAACP room, convention room, where we used to hold the NAACP meetings. And just like you saw him perform tonight, he was performing that same way then. He had a good conference, and of course we learned a lot of things. And he had all of his search engines together. He had the information where you could go directly to the website and pull it up, just in case you doubted what he was telling you. And of course, being in the school, I know a lot of those issues he talked about in the schools were true issues. Of course, it stirred up a whole lot of people, but I think it made a little difference as well. So, as for you, city councilman, each of you have a ministry. You serve the people that live in this city. I know all 7 of you will do the right thing and move some money over to these areas and help the people. We're only asking for a fair share. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir, Mr. Butler.
I need to say, like a Baptist minister, I won't be before you long. How about that? First, I really think that I should be talking to you about coal ash because with the recent permit that was just granted at the HF Lee plant and all the poisonous arsenic's going to be going into the water where one of the Goldsboro pumps is. I should be talking about that, but I'm going to forego that tonight and just talk a little bit about what subject of discussion. I think in order to meet the goals as outlined by HUD, and that is to be more viable communities, support low to moderate families that are impacted by the natural disasters, and as a whole, it's more Goldsboro citizen-centered. I want to recommend that to you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, that you adopt the recommendations made by Mr. Wright in his proposed budget to the budget that has been presented. But I do have a question for Ms. Simpson Carter regarding her proposed budget. And maybe I missed it. A lot was happening, a lot was shared. But I didn't see anything about transitional housing. I was here doing Matthew and Florence. I saw the devastation, I saw the despair, I saw the people that were left with nowhere to stay. And my question is, proactively, how are we planning for those people to have somewhere to live? So if you look at the transitional budget activity line, there's nothing in that. And I don't know if that's being met in some other way. But as a community who's concerned about our citizens, I don't see how we can present a proposed budget without addressing that. And I ask that you consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll get you an answer to that, Mr. Roberts. Would anybody else like to speak? Anybody else like to speak? All right, seeing none, we're gonna close this public hearing and we're gonna move to the public comment. Before we do, I do wanna make 3 comments on this, just to be sure folks have correct information. One is there is a $100,000 urgent repair program. Anybody that qualifies can get $10,000 for the urgent repair program, and it never depletes. We use the $100,000, we fix the 10 houses or whatever it is, and we ask for the grant again, and the cycle just repeats. So that is one of the ways that we meet and do the requirement of fixing houses. I just want to be sure everybody knows that that's there. And the second thing is the 1.6 million that was spoken to about storm drainage. That is not quite correct. There was 1.6 million for infrastructure, which is water, sewer, and some storm drainage in there. But really important, we haven't gotten that money, nor have we been approved to spend that money. So that haven't even hit our budget yet because we don't have that money. And the last thing I just want to say, I do appreciate all the comments. I think there have been some good comments. I think there's been some good things to think about for us to talk about. Maybe we shift some priorities, shift some ways. But I do want everybody to know, and I want to be sure we're clear on this, that our action plan is approved every year by HUD. It goes through their rigorous review and they approve it every year in writing. So I do want everybody to know is at least it is approved. Can we change money? Can we do things differently? Absolutely. And that's why we're having this conversation. But I don't want anybody to leave thinking that our plan is not approved every year by HUD, because it is. So with that, we'll go to public comment period time.
Release the plan. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, we're going to go to public comment period. Anybody in the audience can speak up to 3 minutes on city business. City business. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. Mayor
Good
Allen.
evening. How are you?
Oh, excuse me. Mayor Allen, Councilman Selman, Councilman and City Manager Selman, I apologize. My name is Carrie Shields, and I'm with Curtis Media Group of Goldsboro, and I'm here specifically tonight to talk about 92.7 Jams. I want to thank each of you personally, especially Mayor Allen and LaToya Henry. She did leave, but I do want to say thank you to her for your support of our upcoming Jams Out Juneteenth event. We have had an amazing response to this event, and we are very excited about it. We currently have all of our sponsorship spaces that are sold out, and our family-friendly event is open to the public. We have national recording artists that will be here. We have bouncy houses, food trucks, and a lot more. If you want to find out more information, you can go out to jamsoutjuneteenth.com. And what we want to say basically is that we couldn't have made this possible without each of you, so thank you. And our community's also been behind us 100%, so thank you to our community. I would personally like to invite each of you to attend our event. It is this coming Saturday at Herman Park Center from 10 until 2. And thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Can you leave us the poster?
Oh, yes,
We might put it up. Just give it to Melissa right there. We'll find somewhere to put it. Thank y'all. Would anybody else like to speak? Sir, you were getting up in the back. Matt, he was getting right ahead of you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. To the Honorable Mayor and to the Councilman, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I always feel strange when I'm used to turning this way audience, but maybe a suggestion one day we can put this stand over there. What do you guys think? Might be better. It's better fitted for a minister anyway. I'm a spokesman, one of them for the Almighty, and that's why I'm here today. The main reason I'm here because I have seen a dark cloud over the city of Goldsboro that I have never seen since I've been here. I've been here about 10 years, Viet, Kinston, Viet, New York City. I'm a minister. I'm the founder and president and CEO of the Gospel Times Ministries Incorporated. I just finished an anthology, a book to be published, and I'm doing some other things. I work with youth in New York City for over 30 years. I work with the corporate community and youth community. This dark cloud really bothers me. And I'm gonna give you a example. Recently, in the complex, apartment complex where I live, they came to do the pavement, you know, where you park your cars and all that, to beautify the landmark there. It's a landmark and a landscape. Well, in my particular parking space, they did a pretty bad job. You know, the paint sprayed all over the parking space, and everybody else was fine except mine. So I was disturbed about it, but so I prayed about it and get the right course of action, what we should always do. And so I called I did a research and called the paint company. And I said, I informed them what had happened to my space. And it was really an eyesore for the entire project. Well, then he referred me to the owner of the property. And I spoke to him, and I said, you know, you've done a wonderful job, absolutely wonderful in our apartment complex, except you have an eyesore. And that one eyesore has diminished the total beauty of that work you did. And they said, well, Reverend Barfield, we prize ourselves on making sure we do a good job. I'll put someone right on it. And so what happened was that the gentleman came back and he used a water pressure and he cleaned up that particular area. And I felt wonderful, and I felt part of the work that they did there. But prior to that, I really felt that it was an eyesore for the community. I'm saying that to say this issue of Antonio Williams and the counterpart, whoever's involved in that, is an eyesore to the city council and to the city. I mean, it has begun to be controversial, not just in this city, but other surrounding cities and states. This has to be resolved, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir,
it's a dark cloud,
I
and
don't
it's
mean
an
to interrupt
eyesore.
you, but your time's up. But thank you for speaking.
Okay, well, let me make my closing
Your
statement.
time's up, sir. You have to quit. I'm sorry. 3 minutes.
You only get 3 minutes?
That's it, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll come back next week.
You're welcome to come back.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you,
God
sir.
bless you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Alicia Pierce again. I just wanted to thank you, Councilman Foster, for bringing up what I've asked you to bring up in the meeting today. And so my question is to the city manager, and how are you today? Is there a time frame on when you would be able to get a date for the hearing based on the ordinance that Councilman Foster mentioned? Are we
Well, I have to
looking
take a
at
look at the
month?
issue. I'm definitely going to respond to the request.
Okay, so we
But that
will.
doesn't mean there'll necessarily be.
But will we get a response maybe by the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And can he reclaim the rest of my time? Because I'm done.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Matt, I saw you.
Why can't he reclaim the time? If she didn't use her time.
We cannot do it.
Why? Where is that in the ordinance?
I mean, it's no rule statement, but it's fine, Antonio, no need to argue.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right, appreciate it. All right, council, mayor, city manager, we just wanted to say thank you all. First of all, my name's Matt Whittle. Those of you who don't know me, I think most of y'all do. Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity. I want to thank y'all for the recent donation of the 2 lots on George Avenue to Habitat. We'll be thanking the county commissioners tomorrow for that. And just kind of wanted to update y'all at what we've been doing with the lots we've received from the city. We've received a total of 9 lots from the city since 2001. Of those, 6 have been built on, 6 single-family homes have been constructed on those lots. 3 are currently, counting the ones in Georgia, are currently in progress. Overall, since 2001, Habitat has built 80 houses. We've finished our 80th house and about to have the family move in down in Mount Olive. Will be our 80th house. We have 80 houses, 81 and 82 underway, just outside city limits and right in city limits. Since 2001, we've served a total of 148 families in Wayne County and abroad through our programs, through our partnerships here locally, and as well as with Habitat for Humanity International. A couple things to kind of put in perspective, and when folks ask the partnership between the city and Goldsboro, or between the city and Habitat for Humanity, what that means, for us it means those 6 families now have homes. 3 more will have homes. But for the city and for the county, what it means in terms of dollars, in 2018 our homeowners produced $81,983 in property tax. Since 2002, our homeowners have produced $669,333 in property tax. So those investments that y'all make, the investments that the Board of Adjustment makes when they, on occasion, have had to allow us some variance on property widths, some variance on some other things here and there, those investments do pay off. It pays off for the homeowners, but also pays off for the community as a whole. And I wanted the council just to be aware of that as we move forward, as we continue to partner with the city. Also wanted to mention real quick that Habitat for Humanity is not just about affordable home ownership. That is our focus. That is our mission, is providing opportunities for affordable home ownership. But when you see the plan in front of you for the home funds, for the CBG funds, we are in favor of anything that happens in Wayne County to increase affordable housing, whether that's home ownership, whether that's rental, whatever that looks like for the city and for the entire county. So thank y'all so much for the partnership. We enjoy working with you, and we look forward to continuing.
Thank you. We appreciate what Habitat does for the community too. It's a good partnership. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir. We're getting double teamed. How are y'all tonight?
Good, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing tonight?
I hope you are.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and citizens of Goldsboro. My name is Zach Lilly. I'm the Vice President of the Mary Wooten Harvey Foundation. And beside me is Airman Amador. He's our newly appointed Military Relations Director. I come before you just to ask for support from our community. The Mary Wooten Harvey Foundation focuses on mentoring youth within our city. Instead of just telling you about our organization, I'll tell you about why I do it. Hopefully, my reason will inspire some others to get involved in our organization. The reason I am so invested in this organization is because I know that one day that I'm going to have children here in the city of Goldsboro. I know that my children are going to attend Carver Heights Elementary. I know that they're going to go on to Dillard Middle School. I know that they're going to go on to Goldsboro High School. And I also know that the police officers in our community are going to keep them safe. The paramedics and doctors are going to treat them when they get sick or in the unfortunate event that they get injured. And all of those professionals are the kids that we're mentoring today. So we help one child, one youth, get off the streets and into a profession that helps our community, then it touches the lives of countless individuals. We have school administrators that are helping us. We have also just picked up Pikeville and Fremont area. We've worked very closely with Dillard Middle School specifically, but we need help. There's a lot of youth here that need mentors, professional mentors. They're going to be the business owners that I spend my money at, that my kids spend their money at, and we have a lot of vacant properties downtown that I hope the youth that we mentor and they inhabit one day with their own businesses and unique ideas. That's all I've got. Thank you so much for my time here. And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the city.
Thanks, Seth. We appreciate what y'all do. Anybody else like to speak? Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to close the public comment period time and we'll move to consent agenda.
Mayor and council members, consent agenda items K through V are presented for your approval.
Is there a motion to?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda items K through V.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mayor Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Williams?
No.
Councilmember Foster?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Hand?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
The consent agenda passes. Items requiring individual action. Item W is downtown development.
Good evening, Mayor, City
Good evening.
Council.
Item W is a contract award for Phase 2 of the design build services for the construction of Center Street Streetscape Phase 3. The city was awarded a 2016 Tiger 8 grant to support multiple projects, including the wayfinding signage, installation and fabrication project, the construction of the GWTA concourse, and the construction of the Center Street Streetscape project and the hub. In May of 2018, City Council authorized the execution of Phase 1 contract for architectural and engineering services, pre-construction services, and subsurface exploration with TA Loving and their team at a cost of $477,375. For the past year, we have worked with the TA Loving team through the design, materials, and engineering logistics, preparing us to create the plans and cost estimates. We are ready for Phase 2, which is the construction requiring a contract. The cost estimate resulting of the plans is $5,900,651 and includes the $477,375 already approved last year. The Tiger 8 grant project allocated to this portion of the grant is $5,705,750. This does not include costs to create the splash pad and fireplace, as USDOT decided they were ineligible for Tiger grant funding and would have to be apart from our minimum match requirement of the city. The covered shelter stage is also not part of the current construction phase contract scope, since its inclusion made the project significantly over budget and would therefore stall us from moving forward. Staff is working to identify alternative ways to support the stage and shelter, the splash pad and fireplace amenities, and intends to have them built before the hub construction is completed. With the current estimate of $5,900,651 for the Center Street Streetscape and hub project and a budget of $5,705,750, there is a shortfall of $194,901 for this portion of the grant project that will have to be addressed within the grant period, which is scheduled to close in May of 2022, or June 2022, I'm sorry. The wayfinding signage system bids came in under what we had allocated in the Tiger 8 budget. Thus, we plan to reallocate at a minimum $130,000 of the wayfinding project Tiger 8 budgeted monies into the Hub Center Street Streetscape project line item. This reduces the current shortfall to $64,901 that will need to be addressed by June of 2022. We should also note that there is a contingency line item of $162,515 scheduled to be used for unsuitable soils if they should arise, and those funds will have to be agreed upon by the city at the time they are requested, if requested by TA Loving. So there is additional monies that can be allocated towards this shortfall during the terms of this project. Upon approval to execute the contract, TA Loving will begin construction, and the city's public works staff have already begun the demolition in May of this year. Per the May 20, 2019 City Council meeting, the City Council authorized the appropriation of a Tiger Capital Projects budget amendment. Thus, no additional financial action is necessary at this time. The recommendation of the staff is to adopt the attached resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute contracts in the amount of $5,423,276 with the TA Loving Design Company for the Center Street Streetscape Phase 3 project to begin Phase 2 construction services of the two-phase project once finalized and our city attorney has approved. Any questions?
Seeing no questions, is there a motion to award the contract for Phase 2? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise? Motion carries. All right, item X.
Mayor and Council, we have prepared a tentative budget ordinance for fiscal year 2019-2020. General Statute 159.13 requires the governing board adopt a budget prior to July 1. As required by GS 159.11, the budget officer has submitted to the governing board a balanced recommended budget with the required components on May 28, 2019.
ahead of the June 1st deadline. The filing of the recommended budget was also properly advertised in the Goldsboro News Argus on the same day, and paper copies of the budget delivered to the city clerk and to the Wayne County Public Library, as well as made available online on the city's website. Further, the board properly conducted a public hearing on June 3rd, 2019 at the 7 p.m. meeting. Finally, there has been at least 10 days between the presentation of the recommended budget on May 28th and the tentative adoption of the budget ordinance June 17th. The summary of the budget is, we presented that in the memo. We have a total all funds operating budget of $63,414,354. At the June 6th council work session, the mayor and council directed staff on various changes. There were reductions in the mayor and council budget of $90,520. Out of special expense, there was an increase of $40,000. In the police department, there was a decrease of $15,000 for a total decrease of $65,520. In the budget work session just conducted tonight, the board reduced 4 positions not approved in the budget. Approximately, that is a $180,000 reduction in the general fund. In the utility fund, it's approximately $88,000. You removed the discretionary funds of $20,000. The fire overtime of the $50,000 is included in the $180,000 estimate that I gave you. You included Boys and Girls Club STEM program, an additional $5,000. Tonight, the board also approved this meals program for 8 weeks, and I ballparked that at about $14,250. It's obviously not budgeted, so in the savings that we had, my recommendation would be if you would like to conduct the program, we need to fund it. I think it was also mentioned about reserves for workers' comp. If we added another $105,000 out of part of these savings to bring the workers' comp reserve up to $150,000. And then the balance that I calculated roughly, we would be able to reduce appropriated fund balance. We're calling for now $778,000. We could reduce that by $151,000, and so your fund balance appropriation would be down to $627,000. Also do want to say to the public that we have proposed in the recommended budget to remain the property tax rate at 65 cents per hundred, and for the special taxing district at 23.5 cents. We have recommended a 10% wholesale water increase, and it is also in the attached resolution that you had in your packets tonight, but that is wholesale water customers only. This does not affect residential or business customers at all. All other rates for solid waste, for sewer, remain the same.
Any questions? Thanks, Kevin. Is there a motion to adopt the budget ordinance for the fiscal year 2019-20?
I move we adopt the budget ordinance for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. Motion carries. All right. City manager report.
So I'd just like to thank Ms. Gwynn and her whole finance team for the tremendous work they've done over the last few weeks on the past budget and the future budget. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilmember reports. Councilmember Aycock, we'll start with you.
No comment.
Councilmember Ham?
No comment.
Councilmember Foster?
No comment.
Councilmember Rowley?
No comment.
Councilmember Williams?
I pleaded with this council to add additional funds to rebuilding broken places. I pleaded with them, but they didn't care about my pleas. Rebuilding broken places, we've heard people talk about what they do in the community today. And I got an opportunity last summer to witness what they do. They do a lot for that community. That community is kind of forgotten. It's not my district. It's not my district, but they do a lot for those young people that live in that area. Those kids could change the dynamics in the city just from a little bit of support financially. So what I'm asking, since we couldn't get my colleagues to invest in these children. I'm asking businesses in this city to contact Mr. Barnes at Rebuilding Broken Places and write a check to him, because these kids are some wonderful kids. They deserve to have somewhere to go for the summer. Their parents would be pleased. I know I'll be pleased. I got an opportunity to go to a water park with them last summer. And I mean, just some sweet kids. You know, if you want to keep them sweet, you want them to be a great citizen in this community, why not invest in them? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Being no comment, we stand adjourned. Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for your comments.